What I want to do in this video is outline for you a simple strategy that I've been using recently that has really increased the amount of code that I can write in a day and just the efficiency and productivity I have when I am writing code. Now, this strategy relies on the premise that I'm going to outline for you here, which is that what becomes difficult when you get into larger projects or just become more experienced as a programmer is not writing the code itself, it's knowing what code to write. For me personally, if you were to give me a list of a bunch of functions or classes or kind of some detailed requirements, right? You gave me what exactly I needed to do, a bunch of discrete tasks. I could complete those tasks pretty quickly, and I would just continue going through them and spend the entire time pretty much writing code. However, if you don't give me that, and instead you give me kind of a very, very large task that's not broken down, that requires a ton of thinking up front, etc., that's going to take me a lot longer to complete. Now, I know that seems obvious, but the reason I'm stating this is that a lot of people, especially as they kind of get into the intermediate and advanced stage of programming, they forget that thinking about your code and designing your code is a completely separate thing from actually writing the code itself. And if you're constantly switching between these activities, spending a few minutes writing, a few minutes thinking, a few minutes writing, a few minutes thinking, you're going to notice that you're extremely delayed, you're not very efficient, and you're constantly context switching, and it's hard to kind of get into the flow state and really get a lot done. So what this strategy is that I want to share with you here is to really separate the thinking of your code from the writing of your code. Now, I know that seems obvious. I'm going to share with you exactly how I do that and kind of what my day looks like when I'm kind of getting into a code base and writing some code. So the first thing I do every single morning when I wake up, if I'm going to be coding that day, depending on what task I'm doing, is I think of overall what the goal is for the day, right? What do I want to get done? What should be completed by the end of the day? Now, that could be something fairly large. That could be an entire feature. That could be maybe a few different files. That could be maybe some automated testing. Doesn't matter. I think, okay, what is it that actually needs to get done? Once I have that, I immediately start breaking this down into as many discrete tasks as possible. Now, there could be many iterations of doing this, but for example, if I'm writing, let's say, kind of a social media feature where people can follow each other, they can view each other's profiles. Let's say I'm doing something like that. I immediately start thinking, okay, what are the separate components of this task? Well, I need a way of tracking who's following who. I need a way to follow someone. I need a way to unfollow someone. I need a way to get someone's profile, etc. Okay, there you go. I've just split this into 4 separate tasks. Now, for each of those individual tasks, again, you repeat the process and split those into even more discrete tasks. Once I've done that, now for each of those tasks, I say, okay, do I need a file for this? Do I need a function for this? Do I need a class for this? Once I've done that, I stub all of those different things. Now, what I mean by stub is I'll write, for example, an empty file or an empty folder or an empty function or an empty test. It doesn't really matter what it is, but I'll write kind of an empty version of it. So just the function signature, just the class name, so that I have an idea of what it is that I need to do. Now, once I have all of this stubbing done, now I need to pick a relative order that I want to complete the tasks in. So I'll, just order it. I can do a comment 1, 2, 3 on all of the different functions or the different, files. Usually I just remember the order that I need to go in. And then that's when you actually start thinking about how you're going to complete the individual task. So now I have a function in here. I have a class here, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I need to write this individual function. Let me spend some time before I write the function thinking about what does this function need to do. And again, breaking it into as many discrete tasks as possible until you're at the point where you're almost at individual lines of code or small blocks of code that you need to write. Now, at this point, and only at this point, is when I actually start writing any code. Now I have a very clear picture of what I need to do in my brain. I've thought about different edge cases. I've thought about essentially what the problem is and how I'm going to solve it. And now I can just go and code this extremely fast. Now, obviously, yes, I'm going to make mistakes. I have to test this code. All kinds of stuff still goes into it. I may have to stop and think about it again. But generally, this drastically increases the output that I can have because now I'm not constantly writing a few lines of code, stopping for a few minutes, thinking, writing a few lines, stopping for a few minutes, thinking. I'm already in the flow and I can go for 20, 30, 40, whatever amount of time in a row, just writing code and just being on the keyboard and really kind of flowing with each keystroke, if that makes sense to you. So that is really the strategy that I wanted to outline in this video. I know for a lot of you, you probably already do this. This is an obvious thing, but I know a lot of people that watch this channel are just beginners. You guys are looking for some guidance and ways to kind of level up. So I wanted to share this with you in case it could give you some value and allow you to kind of change the way you think about writing code. Key takeaway here is that thinking about and designing your code is a separate task from writing the code itself. And as much as you can separate those two things, you're going to really increase your efficiency and allow yourself to get into that flow state where you can get more code down. Now, I know a lot of people complain about writing more code. Whenever I say more code, I get people in the comments saying, well, we don't want more code, you want less code, etc. What I mean by more code is just you're getting more productivity in the day, more efficiency, you're actually getting more done. If you and me can write the same quality code, but I can write 2 times the amount, then that's better than writing less, right? So hopefully you get what I'm saying here. Hopefully this was a helpful video. If you like these short tip videos, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in another one.